Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. Today we're going to go ahead and do a couple diet culture videos. Or like one of them is actually just a post. And then I'm going to do one video. But I saw something that like really made me mad and I was over it. So I want to talk about it. And it's really late and I'm insane. So I want you guys to understand that I'm insane to start out with. Like, I'm nuts because I think about diet culture at like 1 a.m. So let's do it. So I'm just going to say this flat out because I need to for full transparency. I cannot stand diet culture rebel. Cannot stand this person. I think I might have to do like some dedicated videos. But regardless, this is diet culture related and we're going to talk about it because I do think that there's some nuances to this. Not that leaf being in my eye. I love that for me. But I do think that there are some nuances to this that we need to talk about. So let's go. It says, why do I keep going back to dieting even when they've never worked for me long term? Dieting can feel comfortable, clear rules, predictable, short-term outcomes, and temporary control. So I think that obviously the issue I have is she's completely against any and all forms of dieting. I think that it is too black and white to say that any kind of dieting is bad or to say that like I don't think it's productive to not provide any kind of differentiation between a good dieting strategy and a bad dieting strategy. I think that that's dumb for a lot of different reasons. I've told you guys a lot throughout my journey that you have to look at what you need to do personally to make it possible, but you should not be hungry all the time. And I do, in general, suggest tracking calories. I do. I think it does help. I do. People don't want to hear that sometimes, but I do think it helps a lot. It keeps things from being, it keeps you from being super toxically ritualistic because it keeps you not, not toxically ritualistic, but realistic. So it's important. Okay. So as far as this, dieting can feel comfortable. I think when I look at it from a toxic ritualistic perspective, so if we're looking at an overly reductive diet, why do people do it? Because you can feel like you're getting your life together. You use it as like this this is within the toxic ritualistic, and I'm talking specifically within the BINGE side. You'll use it to be like, I'm starting this new page. I'm changing who I am today. I'm trying on this diet like a new hat, right? That type of mindset is very negative. I think overly identifying with your diet can be comforting, but it's toxically ritualistic. I think making your diet a part of who you are as a person is ridiculous and comical. I don't think there's anything wrong with loving your lifestyle, but to feel threatened, hated, etc. if somebody doesn't like your lifestyle, like if somebody tells me like, well, I want to eat seed oils every single day and seed oils are amazing and whatever, I don't get offended. I'm just not going to do it with you. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. But do I feel like personally attacked? No, I don't. You see the difference? It's not personal. It's practical. Keep it practical, not personal. So that's where there is something there, but I feel like I can explain it in a way where we're differentiating a bit, because she gives this huge blanket statement, which is also completely unhelpful for the toxic ritualistic, because fearing any kind of dieting or fearing any kind of reduction at all or being reductive at all, That's also toxically ritualistic. Remember, it's all about balance. We're in Libra season. It's about balance. I want to see balance. So anyways, let's see the next one. But it's a false sense of control. The control doesn't last long for most and comes with a cost. Okay? So I don't know if this is productive. I will say from a toxic ritualistic perspective, the C word is very triggering to a lot of people that are deeply in it. I feel like it freaks people out too much in a way that's not helpful. So what I would say is being realistic about what you're eating, being realistic about the caloric amount that you're having, being realistic about your perception, and trying to stay in reality. That's the goals, rather than making fun of the idea of controlling your diet. I think that that's too harsh, and I think it freaks people out in a way, like I said, that I don't think is productive within the toxic ritualistic specifically. So I would say, like, being aware of what you're doing, being strategic about what you're doing in terms of diet, having a goal, having an actual purpose or reason that is physically based. So based in physical reality, that's going to keep your perspective about food realistic. Not being hyper obsessed, not over identifying. See all the different words I'm using? I'm not using the C word. When I use the C word within the toxic ritualistic, I'm talking about things outside of diet, because it's typically not even really about the food or about the diet. It's about your life. There are certain things in life that we have to accept that we don't have control over. And trying to control, for example, how other people eat. That's toxically ritualistic. Trying to control how other people see us. That's toxic ritualistic. Trying to control the outcome of a relationship. That's toxic ritualistic. Trying to control another person's behavior, especially if they're not like your child, for example. That's toxic ritualistic. So it's like control being misapplied and setting up that bizarre expectation in the first place. That's what we need to dismantle in the mind. That's where it goes wrong. That's the very root of it. So the idea that there is some weird, brujeria of the toxic ritualistic that we can do to gain control of our lives using this weird ritual, that is not helpful. Oh my gosh, not Eric messaging me. I'm so mad at him. He better not. You better not, Eric. Don't you dare. Anyways, don't you dare send me something offensive. I will blur it out. Anyways, that's the problem, okay? The problem that temporary control comes at the cost of body, trust, health, and your relationship with food. So, relationship with food, it's like giving a quality of it's anthropomorphizing, if that's the right word. It's giving food a human quality. We don't have a relationship with food. We eat food. We don't have a relationship with food. We consume food. So that's different. So think about it more in terms of consumption. So what am I consuming? What am I having? Is it good for me, bad for me? Is it making me feel better or worse? Is it getting me closer or further away from the goal? Think of it that way. Think of it practically, physically. Relationship is emotionally. We don't want to encourage emotionally thinking about food. It's not good. So when she says that control comes at the cost of body, trust, health, blah, blah, again, she's kind of mocking a very big need in a way that I don't think is helpful, like I said, or like she's mocking this huge trigger in a way that's not actually getting you anywhere because she's not giving any other real option. So it's more like, how dare your brain work this way? It's almost shaming to somebody within the problem. And I think a lot of people will say, yeah, totally, da da da. But it's like, honey, that same control that she's talking about also happens when you're BINGing. There's control within that too. You want to do it in a very specific way. You want to have very specific things, typically at very specific times, very specific this, very specific that. There's nobody around, or if you're with somebody, then they have to do it too, and you know, all this stuff. There's all these conditions that you are trying to control even within that side. So saying that only being reductive is controlling, but not the other side, that's not controlling, that's not true. And that needs to be pointed out. But it's also, it's okay to have control over what we consume. That's okay. What's not okay is to use the control over what we consume as some kind of witchcraft to try to control things outside of ourselves that we are not in control of. That's the problem, okay? And that's where we make the natural supernatural in a very negative way. You can honor the fact that dieting once served you and now the cost of continuing is too great. That's kind of a nothing statement. I don't even know what that means. So it's bad that we're doing it, but it also served us in the past, but now it doesn't, but it does, but it doesn't. You see, it's weird. Change can start when you ask, what's one small step I can take to begin healing my relationship with food and body? I think it would be more helpful to give a suggestion. So what I will say is stop obsessing. Don't obsess. Don't look in the mirror for more than 5 minutes total in a day, for one. That's one. If you're looking longer than 5 minutes, you need to stop. If you're in this issue, you need to stop. Okay? That's a suggestion. That could be an actual concrete thing. I want you to think about how much you're looking in the mirror. How much are you monitoring it? Is it healthy? Are you checking to see if your hair is straight or you got your makeup on right or whatever? Are you checking to see if the outfit is good, or are you staring? Are you fixating? Are you picking yourself apart for a very long time? You know, I think when you start to recover in the toxic ritualistic, you can look a little bit longer and you can even look critically, but you need to be very objective and it needs to not be a shock. You need to get to the point where looking in the mirror is not shocking, because it isn't shocking. You don't look that different than you did yesterday. Okay? That's a actual advice, an actual concrete thing. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. Dieting is a great example of this. It's time to make a change for the better. So I would change it to like overly reductive dieting, doing a ridiculous one, ridiculous dieting, right? This type of stuff. We need an adjective there, okay? Thinking about ditching diet culture, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's where she does her plug. So let's go ahead and continue to the next one. 1 second. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this one now. This one I really didn't like. So we're going to just listen to the whole thing and then I'll break it down piece by piece.
Body, after almost 10 years of training, no one ever asks if I work out because they already know that I do. I have a little bit of fluff on the frame, but not so much to where I'm overweight. I still have a little bit of vascularity. I have good muscle size. I fill out clothes. And this is more comfortable to lay next to as a partner. And so if this is the trade-off of being able to go out and eat with my friends, my family, enjoy life, and the trade-off is other dudes aren't going to say how shredded my abs are, I'm okay with that. and you should be too.
A few problems with videos like this. I can totally appreciate if this is a body that you love and that's what you want to achieve. Awesome, go for it. Most people watching this video are not going to be people who are happy with their body. They are people who want to change their body, and they're going to see this video and think 10 years of work to look like that, and then they're not even going to want to start, because 10 years of to get to that point, it just seems like so far for so little progress. Why even start? It does not take 10 years to get there. It took me 8 months to go from this to this. Like, it is so possible to get absolutely shredded with a great looking body in so less time than people actually think. My second issue with videos like this is that the opposite of fat shaming is happening. People get all riled up about not shaming people who are overweight, but you're kind of doing the opposite by shaming someone who wants to get extremely in shape. It's not a bad thing to want a six-pack. It's not a bad thing to want to have a really carved chest and big arms. Like, you shouldn't have to feel bad or have to justify in your mind wanting those things. But for some reason, everyone likes to engage with content like that because it makes them feel better that they don't have a six-pack. They're not super cut. The last part for me is just the very end when he talks about the trade-off of eating out with your family and living your life. Look, it's just not true. I know, because I used to think that if you really want to be shredded, you're going to have to just restrict yourself like crazy and never be able to enjoy your life again. It's just not true. You're going to be able to eat whenever your family goes out. If that's once a week, once a month. When you get to a point when you can see abs somewhere around 12% body fat, when you're exercising regularly, your maintenance calories is going to be decently high. It's surely going to be high enough that you're going to be able to enjoy yourself and eat the foods you love and not feel like you're so restricted. If you're considering starting, if you're someone who wants to change your body, don't be discouraged by this video. Your goals are probably not as far away as you think. Yes, you can get shredded, and if that's something that you want, don't feel like it's bad to want that. Go get it.
Body.
Okay, so this is I felt like this take was super weird. And I think that we can get into some reductive toxic ritualistic within the fitness space. I think right off the bat, there's certain issues I have with this comparison aspect and this whole, like, if one person is one way, then that means that I have to be the same way or that I have to be better because I'm looking at that person. We're not getting into intrinsic motivation here. The waters can get very murky very fast. And when we're talking about vanity weight and we're talking about very specific, like between the difference between 12% and 13% body fat, for example, this is where genetic differences do come. So abs may not be easy for everybody. Abs may not be something that happens in 8 months for somebody. It is bizarre. We're losing differentiation here, which is getting into the toxic ritualistic herd. And I mean that HERD. We're becoming, because I want this and you have to want this. Ooh, no. We're getting into weird waters here. Okay? So let's go ahead and break it down piece by piece, and I'll give my opinion.
After almost 10 years of training, no one ever asks if I work out because they already know that I do. I have a little bit of fluff on the frame, but not so much to where I'm overweight.
I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think he looks fine. I think if I looked like him, I would be pretty fucking happy. If I'm honest, I think I'd be like, yeah. Honestly, I think this type of physique is probably similar to what I want, if I'm being real. I told you I want to be around 17% body fat. And honestly, it doesn't make me a better or worse person. I think I like to eat. I want to have a big ass. I want to be comfortable, and I want to, especially by next autumn, I want to be able to have caramel apples with butter and sugar and honey and shit like that. I don't want to be engaging in diet culture anymore. I want to be done. I want to have fudge for Christmas. I want to have all this stuff, and I don't want to have to eat it like I'm Liv Schmidt, where I have a bite and then I just sniff it after. I don't want to do that. I just don't. And I don't have to do it. I'm going to be healthy enough. If I looked like this, or similar to that, I would be healthy. And I think that there's this very bizarre, like, you have to do this because I'm doing it. I don't have to do shit that you're doing. I have to be healthy. You have to be healthy. We have to get to at least an average level. You have to. That you do have to do. You do not have to have abs. You don't. I don't have to have abs. I don't have to feel any kind of way about having abs or not. I can appreciate abs in somebody else. If I want to try to have abs, I can have them. But this is getting bizarre. Let's see more.
I still have a little bit of vascularity. I have good muscle size. I fill out clothes, and this is more comfortable to lay next to as a partner. And so if this is the trade-off of being able to go out and eat with my friends, my family, enjoy life, and the trade-off is other dudes aren't going to say how shredded my abs are, I'm okay with that, and you should be too.
Intrinsic motivation. Nothing wrong for striving for abs. Nothing wrong for striving for his physique. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's all very, very subjective. I think people forget that aesthetics, after a certain point and at a certain point, are subjective. There are a lot of women that are going to find him more attractive like that than a guy that has abs. It's subjective. It's easier to lie next to me in bed at night, to whoever he ends up with, which I'm sure he could find a woman to be with. You see? We gotta not lose the forest for the trees here. It's just ridiculous.
Few problems with videos like this. I can totally appreciate if this is a body that you love and that's what you want to achieve. Awesome, go for it. Most people watching this video are not going to be people who are happy with their body. They are people who want to change their body, and they're going to see this video and think 10 years of work to look like that, and then they're not even going to want to start.
So he's basically saying he looks like crap. Is he not? I don't think he does. So now what? Who's right? You know, I think it's getting into... It is giving body shaming. It is. And for what? To what end? I don't get it. I don't get it.
Because 10 years to get to that point, it just seems like so far for so little progress. Why even?
So little progress? According to who? By what standard? Where are we? According to the reductive side of the toxic ritualistic? Sure, I guess. But I don't give a fuck about their standards. No offense to anybody that's dealing with Anna. I do not give a fuck about your standard. Let me be very, very clear. I don't give a fuck about your standard at all, and I shouldn't. I don't think anybody should. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
Even start. It does not take 10 years to get there. It took me 8 months to go from this to this.
And what did you do for it? Because we're not starting out strong here. We're just not. Because you're being overly competitive, overly comparing. And when we do that, it's not great. It just isn't. It's not great. I think there's a difference between being inspired or maybe aspiring to look a certain way. But again, your body, your genetics may look different, especially when we're talking about this margin. Genetics do come into the picture within, lower body fat ranges and things like that. And when we get to pure vanity, yes, genetics do matter. They're different. Your muscles may sit differently than his. Your progress may look different. Time could be different. There's no like, oh, everybody can do this in this amount of months. That's not true. There are a lot of differences. There's very, very individual things.
Like, it is so possible to get absolutely shredded with a great looking body in so less time than people actually think. My second issue
It depends on the person. It's not true.
with videos like this is that the opposite of fat shaming is happening. People get all riled up about not shaming people who are overweight, but you're kind of doing the opposite by shaming someone who wants to get extremely in shape. It's not a bad thing to want a six-pack.
I don't necessarily think he was shaming it. I think he was saying it wasn't for him. Which again, if you're saying to say that it's not for me means that you're a bad person because I don't want what you have, or I don't value it as much as you. For me, I've told you guys, I want a big ass. A bigger ass is more important to me than abs. That's my decision. That's my standard. That's my choice. That's my right. And I don't have to look a certain way because you want to look a certain way. I don't. But I'm not shaming somebody for having a six-pack. I think six-packs look great. I think they look amazing. But I don't want one. I don't want what it takes to get there. I can acknowledge what it takes to get there. And I can acknowledge that there's other sacrifices that would have to be made, aka my ass. I don't want to. I would rather fill in clothes a bit more. I would rather have a different look. I never really wanted to be skinny like that. And I don't have to be. It doesn't mean that I think somebody who's skinnier is ugly. That's not true. It's just not for me. Like I said, I like to eat. I like a little bit of a thicker look. I don't have anything against somebody being on the skinnier side. I don't care. I don't think it's ugly. I don't think anything like that. But it's like, I don't know. I think that his body looked great. I think I would love something like that. And I don't care about the clout of like, oh, I have abs for other people. I'm not that way. Some people are that way. It doesn't matter to me. It just doesn't matter. It's the whole point.
It's not a bad thing to want to have a really...
No, it's not. It isn't at all. I think it looks great to have abs. I think it looks great to be cut. I think all those things look amazing. But I also think that it can look really good to have, to be a little thicker too. It just depends on what you want to do. But to act like he looked like shit, it's like, honey, maybe to you, I guess. I don't think so.
Carved chest and big arms, like, you shouldn't...
If you're truly happy with where you're at, you shouldn't have to tear somebody else down. You should be happy with yourself and with where you're at. If you can only feel like you're better, or like you only feel good about yourself because you can take somebody else down a notch, it's getting into toxic ritualistic territory. It's not real. Be self-directed. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. And he wasn't even necessarily putting people down. He's saying, this is what I want for my lifestyle, for what I'm comfortable with pursuing, for what I'm comfortable doing. And I don't think I look like crap, even though guys say I do. That's what he's saying. Because there is like a competitive thing within men. They're all kind of competing with each other, but it's still toxically ritualistic. I don't give a fuck if you're a man. You can have a toxic ritualistic problem. And that is what it is. And I'm going to call it out.
have to feel bad or have to justify in your mind
No,
wanting.
you don't. You don't have to whatsoever. You never have to justify it. What you have to justify is you have to stay within a healthy range. If you go too far, if your body fat gets too low, then there's a problem. But if you're within a healthy range, if it works with your lifestyle, if it helps your career, if you have a reason for having abs, even if it's just that you are vain and you just want to look that way, you don't have to justify it to anybody. But what you don't get to do is you don't get to externalize that standard onto everyone else. That's weird. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't.
Those things, but for some reason everyone likes to engage with content like that because it makes them feel better that they don't have.
No, I think some people just don't care, or they have other aesthetic goals. Like I described in this video, I have other aesthetic goals.
Have a six-pack, they're not super cut. The last part for me is just the very end when he talks about the trade-off of eating out with your family and living your life. Look, it's just not true. I know, because I used to think that if you really want to be shredded,
I want to eat caramel apples every day if I want. I want to eat a big steak. I don't want to have to worry about it all the time. I don't want to have to sweat it. I don't want to live that way. You know, I'm still going to count and stuff, but it's like, I want it to be easy. When I'm maintaining, I want things to be easier than to maintain 9% body fat. I don't give a fuck what you say. It does take less calories to maintain 9% versus 17. It does. And if you're trying to say it doesn't, you're lying. And for me, it's worth it to eat more. I can get better nutrition. I can do better hormonal work. I can restore myself better like that. My workouts will probably be easier. That's just for me. If your like genetics are so great that you can just like be like 9% body fat or do whatever and you have the energy to do everything and you're doing great, I'm super happy for you. I think that's great. But it doesn't mean that somebody that's at 17 looks like crap. It just doesn't. It's ridiculous. It should be about what you want. It shouldn't be about being better than somebody else.
you're going to have to just restrict yourself like crazy and never be able to enjoy your life again. It's just not true. You're going to be able to eat whenever your family goes out. If that's once a week, once a month, when you get to a point when you can see abs somewhere around 12% body fat, when you're exercising regularly, your maintenance calories is going to be decently high. It's surely going to be high.
Not for everybody. What if you're very short? What if you're a guy that's like 5'2", 5'6"? Is it going to be decently high still? Probably not. I mean, it's just, he's being overly generalizing. And it's okay to acknowledge that there are some genetic differences. Just because obesity isn't genetic, which that is bullshit, doesn't mean that something like abs is not genetic. Some people have an easier time getting abs than others, and that's okay. Other people have a harder time putting on muscle than others, and that's okay. I personally have an easier time putting on muscle, especially if my hormones are strong. Like I said, I know I want the big ass. I know I can get it. I know I can, especially in maintenance, especially when I really dedicate and put time towards it. Like, I would rather be bulkier in some ways. I want to fill out my clothes. I want this type of stuff. That's the look I want. You know, I want to listen to Diet Pepsi and really be able to feel myself in some jeans. That's what I want, and that's okay. That's my goal. It's okay. You don't have to have my goal.
Enough that you're going to be able to enjoy yourself and eat the foods you love and not feel like you're so restricted. If you're considering starting, if you're someone who wants to change your body, don't be discouraged by this video. Your goals are probably not as far away as you think. Yes, you can get shredded, and if that's something that you want, don't feel like it's bad to want that. Go
It's not bad.
get it.
It's
Body
absolutely,
after almost
it's absolutely not bad. I don't think he was really shaming it. I think he was just saying, I'm a little softer to lay down with in bed. It's more comfortable. That could be true for a lot of women. That's what he has to offer. If a girl saw him and they're like, nah, I want somebody with abs. Okay, that's fine. Again, that's your standard. It's okay. You know, I mean, you can like what you like, but you don't have to put everybody down. And at a certain point, like, we're getting ridiculous here. We're losing the forest for the trees. And I don't know. I think for me, it's this weird thing of like, because I want to get shredded, everybody has to want to get shredded. And it's not true. Like, you can pursue something on your own. You can pursue something of your own volition. You can have your own aesthetic goal that has nothing to do with anybody else. You just need to be healthy. And that's what I'm going to push on everybody, is to be healthy. But as far as aesthetics, it's really up to you. Aesthetics, it's up to you, and it's choose your own adventure. And just be healthy. But with that, you guys, I'm going to go. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys later.